Welcome to episode 108 of my Dissecta Membra, my scattered thoughts, except for the fact that for a few episodes here, I'm connecting some of these thoughts for a 6-part series on artificial intelligence. This will be part 5 today. So now I want to talk about the post-training, okay? Because once you've done the training, what an AI program does in a computer or this computer data center is to statistically recognize patterns and autocomplete what you begin with. So if you put in 12 words, they're going to go through all of the data and find those same 12 words or tokens, and they're going to guess the most likely 13th token, okay? And that'll come back to you. And it keeps going until finally they'll give you a big long sentence or a big long paragraph. But it's all pattern recognition, statistically represented and fed back to you. But again, there's no intelligence, there's no knowledge, there's no consciousness. It's a purely mechanical, mathematical, statistical procedure to make the best guess of what the next word should be. And so that has some use. That's, that can be used to autocomplete certain things and find information which is on the internet. But now comes the third step called post-training. And post-training is fascinating because now what they do, they get hundreds of experts and they call them labelers. And they say, we want you to ask every possible question on this topic that comes in your mind. Ask the question and write down what the correct answer ought to be to that question. It is with thousands, hundreds of thousands of questions and answers. And then that's more data, okay? That's new data. That's zeros and ones stretched out in a continuous sequence. And now they go through pattern recognition on that data. And they take that in and establish statistical probabilities of the next word, the next word, the next word for the question. And once they've done that, then they go to see the probabilities of the answer that has already been given by a human being. So then I'm just seeing the example of one particular question answer. So they got one question answer done there. What do they do after that? Well, this is called supervised fine tuning. Whereas, as I mentioned before, the heart of AI is what's called a transformer or a neural network, where you've got the information comes in to these nodes, and these nodes are connected to another layer of nodes. Let's just say you got 10 nodes, and each node is connected to another 10 nodes. That's 100 connections, right? And each connection says, uh, give me all of this information, or give me half of it, or give me 30% of it, or give me none of it. And so you've got all these ratios here, 0 to 1, of how much from level 1 should be transmitted to level 2 and in which paths. Now you got 10 nodes, you got 100 paths, right? Now there's thousands and thousands of nodes. So there's millions and millions of paths, all right? And so there's a way of randomly tweaking the weight, they're going to call it, of these parameters, whether it's a 0, a 0.3, a 0.6, and you tweak that until you get, at the end of it, the highest likelihood for which you know is the right answer. Let's just say that um, the sentence is going to be, uh, I don't know, the mole went underground. So the mole went, okay, and you know the answer is supposed to be under. Well, no, that's not a question. The question would be, where do moles live? So where do moles live? And so they're going to go through all the data, this new data now, the questions and answers, and they're going to find out what's the chances of underground being the highest likely. There'll be other answers, but let's just say that underground has a 4% and that some other answer has a 7%. Well, that's not good. So now they go run this thing through the whole neural network again, the transformer, uh, and they tweak it and look at the answer. And now let's say that underground has 5% and so there I says 6%. No, not quite good enough. They go through, tweak it again, tweak it again, tweak it again, until they get a solution where now underground has 9% chance, and the next highest one is 4%. Okay, our 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 model now has been trained. That's why, by the way, you say Chat GPT. What does GPT mean? G means generative. It's gonna generate an answer. P means it's pre-trained. This system has been tweaked now to give the right answers. And transformer means that's a neural network, which is going to process what you put in as a question, because your question won't be the same, won't be exactly the same as the question you've been trained on. But the point is, if it trains on enough questions, that your question will be similar enough to one set of questions that it will know how to answer. For example, when I use the word mole, uh, let's just say that's one token. Well, is that a living creature? Is that a measurement of chemical, quantity? Is that a growth on one's skin? The word mole can mean all three of those things. And so the AI computers have been trained that if the token mole comes up in proximity to the token chemistry, that okay, now we think it's likely this is a mole, which is a chemical mole. Whereas if it comes up in proximity to the word garden, then they say, that's probably the living underground thing. But in all this, with every single token has a list of probabilities, statistically 0 and 1, of it being related to certain things. And they've got these parameters like geography or like weight or like color, all these things. And so every word has a statistical uh, possibility of being in any of these thousands of categories or being followed or following any particular word. It's amazing, the amount of computer processing, the amount of storage space, the amount of energy you need to do these things which happen inside our brain, you know, pretty quickly, and that's not a very big space, and it doesn't take a whole lot of energy. You have a hamburger and a milkshake, and you can keep going. Uh, but okay, so that's the third step in AI is called post training. It's also called supervised fine tuning. Supervised meaning human beings are there. Human beings create the questions, they create the answers. The programmers go through and run that through a whole series of cycles to try and tune the system, train the system so that the answer is the correct answer. And they do that again and again and again and again. And the more they do it, the more likely it is that that question will get the right answer. And the important thing is that a similar question will be treated similarly, and by the pattern recognition, we'll get the same answer. Um, I think that's all. Oh, one other thing I want to say about this is that when the machine gets the wrong answer, they call it a hallucination. And in the whole training process, it starts with mainly hallucinations, and they kind of reduce them until the data set they've got of human generated questions and answers is such that when you put your question in there, statistically, you're very, very likely to get an answer, which is the correct answer. Why is it correct? Because it matches what humans have said is correct. That's it. See, artificial intelligence is not intelligence, it's just artificial. All the truly intelligent part of it, the conscious part of it, the part of which did the training, is, of course, human. Finally, there's just one little not directly relative, but just so you know it, um, when these algorithms, when these statistical patterns, which have been trained in the AI program, platform, computers, are unable to come up with an answer which matches some statistical probability that makes sense, they can use what they call helps. They're programmed to be able to take what you've asked and create a computer code out of it and run the computer program and maybe get the answer that way. It's called a help. So they're programmed that if they reach an impasse, that one way to overcome it is to create code and then run the code and see what the code answers. The second way is to go to the internet, and then the AI will actually go onto the internet and try and find an answer, because AI is dated. As soon as you stop putting data in it, it loses its knowledge of what came after that. Like if you go to, for example, DeepSeek, the version I use, it'll say, we only know up to 2023. We don't know after that. Um, so that's the third step in the four steps of AI post-training, in which you take the data from the labelers, human beings, questions and answers, and you run that through the whole process of tweaking the transformer, tweaking all these uh, parameters or weights until you get the most likely right answer. And now your AI has been pre-trained. So I'll complete this in the next episode with reinforcement learning.